Hidden Truth, What We Found After Years. In today's story, we dive into a chilling mystery that captivated many. It begins with the sudden disappearance of a woman, a case that would unfold with unexpected twists and hidden secrets. As we explore this unsettling tale, we'll uncover the shocking details, the people involved, and the investigation that eventually revealed the truth. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on more gripping Reddit stories. Let's get started and uncover the truth behind this strange and haunting case. A lone hiker braving the isolated and rugged terrain of a remote mountain near Delta stumbled upon a chilling discovery that would haunt them forever. Tucked away amidst jagged rocks and tangled thickets, human skeletal remains lay partially uncovered, their stark presence a grim reminder of a tragic past. The wind whispered eerily through the surrounding trees, adding to the unsettling atmosphere of the scene. The location of the remains added an even darker layer of mystery, as it was disturbingly close to where a woman's personal belongings had been found years earlier, fueling suspicions of a connection to an unsolved case. Authorities were quick to respond, sealing off the area to prevent contamination of what could be a critical crime scene. A team of forensic experts arrived shortly after to carefully examine the remains. Their initial findings hinted at a potential breakthrough. The skeletal remains might belong to Paige Bergfeld, a woman whose disappearance had baffled investigators for years. However, confirming the identity and unraveling the circumstances surrounding her death would require meticulous analysis. Every detail at the scene, no matter how small, could hold the key to solving the mystery. Amid the scattered evidence, a curious object caught the investigators' attention, a business card buried near the remains. At first glance, it seemed insignificant, just an ordinary piece of paper. But this card held a secret that would soon shock everyone. It pointed to an alternate identity Paige had kept hidden from the world. The card was a link to a life she had lived in the shadows, raising questions about what kind of work she was involved in and how it connected to her disappearance. The seemingly simple discovery of the card hinted at a story far more complex. During her time at the University of Florida, Paige's life took a significant turn when she met Howard Bagler, a confident and ambitious young man with a magnetic personality. Their connection was instant and undeniable, quickly growing into a serious and loving relationship. Howard shared Paige's dreams of building a successful future, and together, they seemed to be the perfect match. Even after Paige graduated and returned to Colorado to live with her parents, their relationship remained strong, with both partners committed to nurturing their bond despite the distance. In 1995, Paige and Howard celebrated their love with a beautiful wedding surrounded by family and friends. The ceremony was filled with hope and excitement as everyone admired the couple's compatibility and shared vision for the future. However, as they settled into married life, cracks began to appear beneath the surface. Paige dreamed of becoming a mother, envisioning a family of her own as a central part of her future. Howard, on the other hand, was firm in his decision to remain child-free, a choice rooted in his personal philosophy and beliefs. This stark difference in their life goals created a growing tension in their relationship. Despite countless heartfelt discussions and attempts to find common ground, the divide between them only grew wider. By 1997, after much soul-searching and emotional conflict, Paige and Howard made the difficult decision to end their marriage. It was a painful choice for both, but they parted ways with mutual respect and understanding. Remarkably, their friendship endured, and they continued to support one another even after their romantic relationship ended. This ability to separate amicably was a testament to the strength of their bond. The end of her marriage marked a pivotal moment for Paige, a chance to redefine herself and explore a new path in life. Seeking a fresh start and determined to regain her independence, she adopted the pseudonym Madison and made a bold decision to work at a popular strip club in Denver. While unconventional and controversial, the move was reflective of her desire to take control of her destiny. In this environment, Paige began to rebuild her confidence and establish a new identity. It was a world far removed from her previous life, but it gave her the opportunity to reinvent herself on her own terms. It was during this time that Paige met Rob Dixon, a man whose magnetic charm and considerable wealth made him stand out in her life. Rob was a successful and charismatic individual who quickly captured Paige's attention. Their connection introduced Paige to a new and exciting world filled with possibilities. While her journey had taken unexpected twists and turns, Paige's resilience and determination to carve out a fulfilling life remained unwavering. Little did she know the choices she made during this period would later become key pieces in the larger mystery of her life. Rob Dixon was on the brink of inheriting a thriving family business, a position that promised wealth and stability. When he met Paige, their connection was instant and magnetic. Within a year of meeting, they tied the knot in 1998, celebrating their love in a lavish ceremony. Their marriage seemed like the beginning of a dream come true, filled with promise and excitement for the future. The couple moved into an extravagant mansion in Colorado, a reflection of Rob's wealth and Paige's new life of privilege. Their home, adorned with luxury, became a symbol of their seemingly perfect union. Paige's lifelong dream of motherhood became a reality when she and Rob welcomed 3 beautiful children, Taft, Trigger, and Jess. These children quickly became the light of Paige's life, filling her days with love, laughter, and purpose. As a devoted mother, she poured her heart into raising them, ensuring they grew up in a nurturing and supportive environment. Paige's life appeared flawless to anyone on the outside. She was married to a man she loved, lived in a stunning home, and had a family that brought her immense joy. It seemed as though nothing could disrupt the harmony she had worked so hard to build. Their lifestyle was one of abundance. The sprawling estate, luxury cars, and the best that money could buy surrounded them. Paige reveled in the ability to give her children every opportunity to thrive. She believed this idyllic life. The financial strain on the family grew worse with each passing year. Rob's once flourishing business was unable to sustain their lavish lifestyle, and bankruptcy became an inevitable outcome. The Dixon family's reality shifted dramatically as they were forced to confront the hardships that came with losing their wealth. Paige found herself grappling with the emotional toll of this new reality, trying to remain strong for her children while navigating a crumbling marriage. The stress tested both her and Rob in ways they had never imagined, and the once loving atmosphere of their home turned into a battle response. By 2004, the situation reached its breaking point. Financial pressures gave way to constant arguments, and the household became increasingly toxic. Paige, who had once felt secure and loved, now felt trapped in an environment of fear and tension. One particularly heated argument escalated to the point where Paige, fearing for her life and the safety of her children, made a desperate call to emergency services. Through tears, she told the dispatcher that Rob had threatened her and their children. Her trembling voice conveyed the sheer terror she was experiencing, prompting an immediate response. Police officers arrived at the Dixon residence, prepared to defuse the volatile situation and ensure everyone's safety. The scene they encountered was far from the image of the happy, affluent family that Paige and Rob had once presented to the world. The intervention marked a turning point, shining a light on the fractures that had been hidden behind the walls of their luxurious home. For Paige, this was a moment of reckoning, a realization that the life she had built with Rob was no longer sustainable. It was clear that the road ahead would require difficult decisions and an immense amount of courage to move forward. When police arrived at the Dixon residence after Paige's call, they found a puzzling scene. Paige and Rob were standing side by side at the door, presenting a united front. Paige assured the officers that the situation was under control and that their assistance was no longer needed. Though the police left, the tension in the home lingered and the underlying issues remained unresolved. Paige tried to move forward, but the cracks in their relationship continued to widen. The incident was a troubling sign of the growing instability in their marriage, but it was far from the last time the authorities would be called to their home. A year later, Paige was forced to call the police again, but this time the situation was even more distressing. During a heated argument, Rob had physically assaulted her. The details of the incident were deeply alarming, as Paige explained that the assault occurred while she was holding their youngest child in her arms. This act of violence was not only a direct attack on her, but also a terrifying threat to their child's safety. The police responded swiftly, and Rob was taken into custody. This time, there was no denying the seriousness of his actions. Rob was charged with third-degree assault, a charge that reflected the escalating danger within their relationship. The case moved quickly through the legal system, and during the proceedings, Rob pleaded guilty to one of the charges, harassment. While his guilty plea brought some acknowledgement of his actions, the outcome of the case left Paige feeling let down. Rob avoided jail time, and the case was closed. The resolution, while legally binding, did little to ease Paige's emotional pain or repair the damage that had been done. It was clear to her that their relationship had reached its breaking point. The strain of these events left the marriage irreparably fractured. The once loving couple now found themselves locked in constant conflict, clashing over even the smallest issues. The arguments in their home became a near daily occurrence, creating an increasingly toxic environment for both Paige and their children. After months of turmoil, it became undeniable that their relationship was beyond saving. Both Paige and Rob recognized that the only path forward was to separate. Their divorce, though painful, marked the end of a volatile chapter in Paige's life and the beginning of a new one. Following the divorce, Paige was determined to create a stable and secure life for her children. As a single mother, she knew the responsibility of providing for her family rested entirely on her shoulders. Fueled by her resilience and resourcefulness, she began exploring entrepreneurial ventures. Drawing on her experiences as a mother, she launched a small business manufacturing baby carriers, a product she designed to help other parents care for their children. The venture was personal and practical, allowing Paige to turn her challenges into something meaningful and productive. At the same time, Paige pursued her passion for dance by teaching lessons to toddlers. She found joy and purpose in inspiring young children through movement, blending creativity with education. These ventures not only provided financial support for her family, but also gave Paige a renewed sense of independence and accomplishment. Though life after her marriage was filled with challenges, Paige's determination to rebuild and thrive was unwavering. Her focus on her children and her ability to adapt to difficult circumstances became the foundation of her new life. Little did she know her strength and resilience would soon be tested in ways she could never have imagined. In her quest to provide for her children, Paige juggled multiple roles with remarkable determination. Among her many responsibilities, she worked as a sales representative for a kitchenware company, dedicating long hours to ensure her family's financial security. This role, along with her entrepreneurial ventures and dance lessons, left her with little free time. Yet, despite her packed schedule, Paige remained an attentive and loving mother. She made it a priority to actively participate in her children's lives, whether it was attending PTA meetings, organizing fun play dates, or simply being there for them with words of encouragement. Her devotion to her kids became the bedrock of her new life, giving her a sense of purpose and fulfillment. On the morning of June 28, 2007, Paige's world took a tragic turn. That day marked exactly 1 year since her separation from Rob, a milestone she had approached with a sense of hope for the future. However, the day quickly spiraled into a nightmare. Paige had left her home earlier that morning after arranging for Carol Lindholm, her part-time nanny, to care for the children. Known for her punctuality and reliability, especially when it came to her kids, Paige's failure to return home on time immediately raised concerns. Calls to her phone went unanswered, and the growing silence began to unsettle those who knew her well. At first, Carol tried to remain calm, reasoning that Paige might have been delayed by her demanding work commitments. Yet, as the hours stretched into the afternoon and then the evening, her concern turned into alarm. Paige's 8-year-old daughter, Jess, was especially distressed by her mother's absence. Jess left a series of heartfelt voice messages pleading with her mother to come home. Her worry was palpable, and the emotional weight of the situation began to overwhelm the household. Despite efforts to stay optimistic, Friday bled into Saturday with still no sign of Paige. As the weekend progressed, the atmosphere in the Dixon household grew increasingly tense. Unable to shake the growing dread, Jess urged Carol to contact the authorities. On Saturday, Carol could no longer delay taking action. She and Jess went to the local police station to file a missing persons report, hoping this step would bring answers and help. Later that day, a representative from the sheriff's office contacted Paige's father, Frank, to inform him of his daughter's disappearance. Frank, struck with fear, immediately tried to call Paige's phone, but every attempt went straight to voicemail. With no answers, he turned to his eldest son for support, sharing the devastating news. As the seriousness of Paige's disappearance became evident, a massive search effort was launched. Law enforcement officers led the operation, but the community rallied behind them. Friends, neighbors, and even complete strangers joined the effort, eager to help find Paige. Volunteers scoured every corner of the area, searching abandoned lots, dense woods, and the desert terrain that surrounded their town. It was a united effort, driven by a collective hope that Paige could still be found safe. Flyers were distributed, calls were made, and search parties worked tirelessly, refusing to give up. The immense search operation soon led to a chilling discovery. While combing through the rugged terrain near the outskirts of town, searchers stumbled upon something that sent shockwaves through everyone involved. Paige's disappearance, once shrouded in hope and uncertainty, began to take a darker and more unsettling turn. The community's determination to bring her home was now accompanied by a haunting sense of dread. What lay ahead would unravel a series of events that no one could have foreseen, leaving those who loved Paige grappling with a devastating reality. On a quiet Sunday morning in early July 2007, investigators made a grim discovery that intensified the mystery of Paige's disappearance. Her red Ford Focus was found abandoned in an isolated area far from her usual routes or places she frequented. Even more alarming, the car had been deliberately set on fire. The surrounding terrain was untouched by flames, ruling out any natural cause for the blaze. This act of arson strongly suggested that someone was trying to destroy crucial evidence linked to Paige's case. What had started as a missing persons case now escalated into a suspected criminal act, possibly an abduction or worse, a murder. The burnt vehicle became the focus of a meticulous investigation. Sergeant Ware of the county sheriff's office explained that setting fire to a car is a common method. The discovery of Paige's car and diary marked a turning point in the investigation. What had initially seemed like a tragic but straightforward missing persons case now revealed layers of complexity and sinister undertones. Each clue added a new piece to the puzzle, but also raised more questions. Who had driven her car last? Why had the diary pages been removed? And most importantly, where was Paige? As the community and investigators pressed on with their search, the case grew darker and the urgency to find Paige became even more critical. The search for Paige quickly grew into a massive effort involving not only law enforcement but also family, friends, and concerned community members. News of her disappearance spread like wildfire, prompting an outpouring of support. Her brother Craig, who lived on the West Coast, immediately dropped everything to be with his family, leaving behind his work and personal commitments. He purchased a one-way ticket to Colorado, determined to stay until Paige was found. His unwavering dedication became a beacon of hope for his parents and nephews as they clung to the belief that Paige would be brought home safely. The investigation gradually shifted its focus toward the people closest to Paige. Detectives began scrutinizing her personal relationships, starting with Rob, her second ex-husband. At the time of Paige's disappearance, Rob was living in Pennsylvania, far from Colorado. However, the history between Rob and Paige raised red flags. During their marriage, Paige had filed 2 domestic violence reports against him, a fact that investigators couldn't ignore. This history prompted authorities to carefully examine his potential involvement. Law enforcement worked to verify Rob's whereabouts on June 28th, the day Paige vanished. Rob consistently claimed he had been at home in Pennsylvania and denied any connection to her disappearance. He went a step further to demonstrate his innocence by fully cooperating with investigators and even joining the search efforts for Paige. His visible concern and active participation lent weight to his claims. Although detectives continued to scrutinize his statements for inconsistencies, they found no immediate evidence linking him to Paige's case. Meanwhile, Paige's first husband, Howard, also came under the spotlight. After her divorce from Rob, Paige and Howard had rekindled a cordial friendship. Their bond, rooted in mutual respect, occasionally brought them together for personal or business reasons. Howard revealed that he had been one of the last people to see Paige before she disappeared. This revelation made him a key figure in the investigation and a person of interest for detectives trying to piece together the events leading up to June 28th. A significant breakthrough occurred just a few days after the discovery of Paige's burned-out car. A motorist pulled over on a highway southeast of the city to fix a flat tire when he noticed something unusual: a checkbook lying on the ground. Trusting his instincts, he reported his finding to authorities. This prompted investigators to search the area thoroughly, which led to the discovery of several other personal belongings of Paige's, including medical records, insurance documents, and other essential items. The placement of these scattered objects presented an intriguing puzzle. Why were they found along this particular stretch of highway? Sergeant Ware, one of the lead investigators, speculated that Paige might have deliberately dropped these items in a desperate attempt to leave behind clues about her situation. This possibility added a haunting layer to the mystery, suggesting that Paige may have been aware of her impending danger and was trying to signal for help. Among the items found, the checkbook raised additional questions, several pages were missing from it, and investigators believe these pages might hold crucial information about Paige's final days. The discovery of this item, along with other belongings, hinted at a possible timeline of events, but left investigators with more questions than answers. However, it was the emergence of a business card during the investigation that shifted the entire narrative and unveiled a side of Paige's life that no one had anticipated. The business card pointed to an alternate identity, Carrie, a name Paige had used in her secret life as an escort. This revelation sent shockwaves through her family and friends, who were blindsided by this hidden aspect of her existence. To maintain this dual life, Paige had used a separate phone exclusively for her work as an escort. This discovery not only added complexity to her disappearance, but also raised questions about how her private life may have intersected with her final days. The phone Paige used for her secret work became a critical tool in the investigation. Detectives combed through its call history, piecing together a timeline of her interactions. The final call from the phone was made on the night of June 28th at around 9 p.m., providing a crucial marker in the sequence of events. From this data, authorities identified 7 individuals who had contacted Paige in the days leading up to her disappearance. Among these, one name stood out: Lester Ralph Jones. Jones's background immediately raised red flags. At 55 years old, he had a troubling criminal history, including convictions for kidnapping and violence against women. For the kidnapping charge, he had served a 5-year prison sentence, leaving behind a record that painted a dark and unsettling picture. As investigators dug deeper, their suspicions grew. Jones not only had a violent past, but also owned a white car that eerily matched the description of a vehicle tied to a recent troubling encounter Paige had shared with her nanny, Carol. Carol recounted a chilling story Paige had told her shortly before her disappearance. One evening, after finishing work at her rented office, Paige had walked toward her parked Ford Focus. As she approached, she noticed a white car blocking her path. The sight of the unfamiliar vehicle unnerved her, but she managed to squeeze her car around it. In doing so, however, her Ford accidentally brushed against the white car. Instead of confronting Paige or reacting angrily, the driver of the white car sped off without a word, leaving her shaken but unharmed. At the time, Paige had dismissed the incident as a strange but isolated event. Now it seemed far more sinister. The discovery that Jones owned a car matching the description of the one involved in the encounter sent shockwaves through the investigation. Detectives began to suspect that Jones had been fixated on Paige for some time and might have been stalking her. They theorized that the unsettling event with the white car could have been a prelude to something far more deliberate and dangerous. Determined to uncover the extent of their connection, the police shifted their focus to Paige's phone records, hoping they would reveal a clearer link between her and Jones. What they found only deepened their concerns. The records showed that Jones had tried to schedule an appointment with Paige just one day before she vanished. This revelation hinted at a more direct connection between the two. However, it also revealed that Paige had already developed a sense of unease about Jones. She was familiar with him from previous interactions and had reportedly expressed discomfort about meeting him again. Her reluctance to engage with him suggested she may have sensed danger, adding a tragic layer of forewarning to her story. With mounting evidence pointing to Jones, investigators intensified their scrutiny. His criminal history, the suspicious car, and his attempts to contact Paige painted a troubling picture of a man who might have played a role in her disappearance. Yet, there were still many unanswered questions. What were his intentions? Did their connection go deeper than investigators realized? As the pieces of the puzzle began to align, Jones became the central focus of the case, and the search for Paige took on even greater urgency. In an attempt to avoid meeting Lester, Paige asked her close friend and occasional massage therapist, Carol, to step in for her and attend the appointment on her behalf. Though Carol was initially hesitant, she eventually agreed to meet Lester, sensing the importance of supporting Paige. After the meeting, Carol described Lester as a physically intimidating man, much taller and more imposing than she had expected. His mere presence unsettled her, and his behavior only made things worse. From the very beginning of their meeting, Lester made unwanted advances, openly expressing a desire for intimacy. Carol, however, remained firm and resolute. She immediately rejected his advances and warned him that if he continued, she would not hesitate to call the police. This interaction left Carol deeply disturbed, and it added to the growing list of troubling behaviors that painted a disturbing picture of Lester's character. His actions seemed to be more than just inappropriate. They suggested a pattern of behavior that raised alarm. As investigators delved deeper into Lester's history, they uncovered yet another unsettling connection. It turned out that Lester's workshop was located just a few meters away from where Page's car had been found, burned. The proximity of his workplace to such a critical scene immediately raised suspicions about his potential involvement in Page's disappearance. This revelation was enough to turn the investigation's focus squarely on Lester as a person of interest. When Lester was brought in for questioning, he presented himself as calm and cooperative. He answered all the detectives' questions without hesitation and denied any involvement in Page's disappearance. To further prove his innocence, Lester voluntarily provided his fingerprints and DNA samples for analysis. On the surface, his composed demeanor and seemingly ordinary appearance made some question whether he could truly be capable of such a crime. However, there was one detail that investigators could not overlook. Lester's height, at 2 meters tall, was a striking match for the position of the driver's seat in Page's car. The driver's seat had been pushed back so far that it was clear someone much taller than Page had been in the driver's seat last. This observation raised serious concerns that Lester, due to his height, may have been the last person to drive the vehicle. With this in mind, detectives moved quickly to obtain a warrant to search Lester's home. What they found inside his residence only deepened their suspicions. The search uncovered several items that were deeply troubling. Among them were a disposable phone, several men's wigs, a bottle of Viagra, and a piece of paper with massage and Page's escort service number written on it. Additionally, they discovered an assortment of women's underwear and bras in various sizes, further adding to the unsettling nature of the items. These findings raised significant questions about Lester's activities and his potential involvement in Page's disappearance. Among the items found in Lester's home, the disposable phone attracted the most attention from investigators. They soon traced the phone to a series of calls made to Page on the day of her disappearance. The calls came from an unregistered number, and when Lester was confronted with this evidence, he denied owning the phone. However, investigators discovered the packaging for the phone among his belongings, which contradicted his claims. The detectives then traced the purchase of the phone to a supermarket on North Avenue. They reviewed the store's surveillance footage, which clearly showed Lester buying the disposable phone. When shown the footage, Lester stubbornly denied being the person in the video, despite the overwhelming evidence. This reaction left investigators puzzled but also suspicious, as it suggested that Lester might have been trying to cover up his actions. As the investigation continued, a police canine unit was called in to assist. The dog's keen sense of smell led to a shocking discovery. The animal indicated that Page's body had been inside the burned-out car at some point. To make matters worse, the dog also detected Lester's scent in the vehicle, providing a clear link between him and the crime scene. This raised serious concerns about Lester's involvement in Page's disappearance. Despite these findings, the evidence against Lester was still largely circumstantial. Investigators struggled to find solid proof that would directly connect him to the crime. The lack of Page's body, combined with her hidden life as an escort, created significant hurdles for the authorities. Sergeant Ware explained that despite the strong suspicions, the prosecutor's office ultimately decided not to pursue charges against Lester. Without concrete evidence building a case, Page's funeral was held on April 28, 2012. After years of uncertainty and grief, her family and friends finally had a chance to say goodbye, even though the pain of losing her would never truly go away. The discovery of her remains had provided them with some closure, but the search for justice was far from over. The arrest of the person responsible for her death was still to come. In November 2014, more than 2 years after Page's remains were found, Lester was arrested. He was charged with kidnapping, first-degree intentional homicide, and second-degree murder. For Page's family, the arrest was a long-awaited moment, but they knew that the legal process would be difficult and emotionally draining. The fight for justice had only just begun. The trial didn't begin until July 2016, nearly 4 years after the remains were discovered. The trial lasted for 22 days, during which the prosecution painted a dark picture of Lester's past and his potential role in Page's death. They argued that Lester's violent history toward women made him a prime suspect. The prosecution believed that after Paige refused to meet with him again, Lester became angry and violent, leading to her kidnapping and death. One key part of the prosecution's case came from Lester's ex-wife, Lisa. She shared her own terrifying experiences with Lester, which revealed a pattern of violence. Lisa told the court about an incident in the late 1990s when Lester kidnapped her at gunpoint, threatening to kill her. She explained that his jealousy over her leaving him for another man triggered his violent outbursts. Lester's history of violence was a critical part of the prosecution's case. In the past, he had shown extreme aggression toward women. One of the most shocking incidents occurred when he found his ex-wife, Lisa, with a new partner. Filled with rage, Lester tracked them down and shot Lisa's new partner in the head. Just a month later, he confronted Lisa again, dragged her into his car, and threatened to kill her, saying he would have her body in a lake. Miraculously, Lisa managed to escape and immediately reported the incidents to the police, which led to Lester's arrest for kidnapping and assault. This pattern of violent behavior gave the prosecution strong evidence that Lester had both the motive and the capacity to harm Paige. They argued that Lester's history made him the prime suspect in her disappearance and death. However, Lester's defense took another blow when his wife testified in court. Although she had personal reservations, she explained that her Christian values prevented her from leaving Lester, despite his violent history. However, her testimony ended up being a double-edged sword for him. She recognized Lester in surveillance footage from a store where he was seen buying a disposable phone. This phone was later linked to calls made to Paige shortly before her disappearance. This revelation directly contradicted Lester's earlier claim that he didn't own such a phone. By admitting that he had purchased the phone, his wife unintentionally weakened his defense and undermined his credibility. The defense team was left struggling to explain this inconsistency, and it became clear to the jury that Lester had lied about important details, which hurt his case even further. As the trial continued, the jury became divided. Despite all the evidence and testimony, they couldn't agree on a verdict. After weeks of deliberations, the judge declared a mistrial on September 9th, 2016, because they couldn't reach a unanimous decision. This was a huge setback for the prosecution, as it delayed justice for Paige and her grieving family. They had hoped for a swift conclusion, but now the case was back to square one. Even though the trial had ended in a mistrial, the district attorney was not discouraged. Confident that the evidence was strong enough, they promised to continue pursuing justice for Paige. The team quickly began preparing for a retrial. They spent the following months going over every detail, re-examining evidence, reviewing witness testimonies, and looking for any new information that could help strengthen their case. On November 21st, 2016, just over 2 months after the mistrial, Lester was once again put on trial. This time, the prosecution presented a much stronger case. They had gathered new evidence that painted a much clearer and more damaging picture of Lester's role in Paige's disappearance. One of the most significant pieces of new evidence came from surveillance cameras near Lester's workplace. The footage showed a white Chevrolet, later identified as belonging to Lester's wife, driving past Paige's car several times just days before she vanished. The timing of the footage was crucial. It matched up with multiple phone calls that were made to Paige around the same time. Investigators also confirmed that Lester's wife had been out of town during this period, which meant that Lester had likely been using her car to follow Paige. This discovery added a chilling new dimension to the case, showing that Lester had gone to great lengths to stalk Paige, further confirming his involvement in her disappearance. The new evidence revealed during the second trial suggested that Lester's actions were not just impulsive, but premeditated. The prosecution argued that the pattern of behavior leading up to Paige's disappearance showed careful planning. This evidence made it harder for the defense to dismiss Lester's involvement in the crime. However, as in the first trial, the defense insisted that there was no concrete proof linking Lester to Paige's death. They argued that the case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence and assumptions, not solid facts. The defense team also suggested that other suspects could be considered. They brought up a man who had died in 2011 and who had initially been a person of interest in the case. This man had a violent past and connections to Paige's secret life as an escort. The defense claimed that he could have been responsible for her disappearance. However, this theory didn't hold up against the new evidence presented during the second trial, which cast serious doubt on the possibility of anyone else being involved. One of the most damaging parts of the trial for Lester came when the prosecution focused on his alibi for the night Paige went missing. Lester claimed that he had left his home for about an hour that evening to return to his workshop and turn off a light he had left on. This explanation seemed suspicious, especially when investigators looked at the timing and location. His workshop was very close to where Paige's car and belongings had been found, which made his story even more questionable. During the trial, the judge made an important ruling about how the crime should be treated. They explained that kidnapping and intentional murder, especially with aggravating circumstances, should be considered one combined crime. This was a key moment as it made it clear that Paige's death wasn't a random act but a planned and deliberate crime. This legal clarification helped the jury understand the seriousness of Lester's actions. Despite the defense's attempts to introduce alternative theories and create doubt, the overwhelming evidence continued to point to Lester. His behavior, his connections to Paige, and the timing of his actions all suggested that he was responsible for her death. After a long and difficult legal battle, Paige's family finally saw a glimpse of justice. The trial ended with closing arguments on December 2nd, 2016, and just a few weeks later, the jury returned with a verdict. On December 27, 2016, Lester was found guilty of all charges related to Paige's death. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Even though Lester never admitted to the crime and never explained his reasons for killing Paige, the jury's decision brought closure to her family. They had waited years for this moment. Lester tried to appeal the verdict, but in June 2022, an appeals court upheld the original decision, ensuring that he would remain behind bars for the rest of his life. The case of Paige's disappearance and the tragic events that followed remind us of how easily hidden lives and dark secrets can intertwine, leading to unexpected and devastating outcomes. It shows us the dangers of manipulation, the importance of trust, and how the truth can remain elusive for years, even when it seems within reach. This case is a powerful reminder of how important it is to understand the complexities of those around us and to never take anything at face value. Thank you for following along with this story. If you found this case intriguing, be sure to like and subscribe for more gripping Reddit tales. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit the bell icon to stay updated. Your support means a lot to us. Stay curious, stay aware, and we'll see you in the next episode.